let's talk today about autoimmunity. So many people that come to see me, I am starting to see this trend is many of them have been diagnosed with some sort of autoimmune condition, and the name might change, whether that's Hashimoto's thyroiditis, that's probably one of the more common, autoimmune kidney disease, autoimmune liver disease, Sojourns, lupus. There's a lot of names for this. Even multiple sclerosis has an autoimmune piece of the puzzle. So you can see there's a lot of people that are dealing with this kind of thing. In fact, there are 250 million people that in the world that deal with an autoimmune condition. It makes it the third leading cause of chronic disease after heart disease and cancer. So it's a huge problem. It's a huge quality of life issue too. What floors me so many times is that people will come in and they will have an issue with a kidney or a thyroid or whatever, and they don't know if it's autoimmune. Because I ask the question, do you know if that's an autoimmune? And so many people don't know. And that's like a red flag to me. You have an autoimmune condition just means that your own body is breaking down an organ or the joints in the body, or it's breaking down a part of itself. And we see this when we run a lab and we have what's called an autoantibody. It's an antibody to ourself. It's like if my body is breaking down my own thyroid, there's something called thyroid peroxidase antibodies that are detectable in my blood. And you can tell the damage, the extent of the damage by the number of antibodies that are found in the blood. So people, they come in and they don't know this. And so it's impossible to actually address a root cause of something if you don't know why it's happening. So I'm always floored by that, and so that's why I did this video, because I feel like this is something that people should know, because it is not normal for your own body to be attacking itself, and that leads to bad things. Right now, it might be one joint, it might be your joints or your thyroid or one organ system, but if you go on long enough and those things don't get taken care of, it's not uncommon if you have one autoimmune condition to, if you don't treat the underlying cause of autoimmunity, to go on and develop another autoimmune condition, and before you know it, you're on all these medications that suppress your immune system. And that is super scary, because our immune system is what defends us against infection and things like cancer. So if you're taking immune suppressing medications, that's I think there are better ways to look at this and see if some of the natural things don't work before we jump to that drastic of a measure with such side effects that can really have life-altering consequences. So let's talk about 3 pieces of autoimmune disease. The first is genetic, and I think that it's there, and if you have someone that you're related to that has an autoimmune condition, chances are you're a little bit more likely to experience that problem. But in my opinion, that's a small piece of the puzzle. I always like to say the genetics load the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger. So even if you have that genetic, first of all, there's nothing you can do about it. There's not something you can do to change your genetics, but you can change your lifestyle. So I believe that's where the power comes from, and that's where we need to focus and live, is in the powerful part of that. And so that brings us to the second piece of the equation, which is our gut health. You may have heard the term leaky gut, or intestinal permeability is the doctorly way to say that. But what happens is that if the junctions in our gut aren't tight like they should be, over time they get compromised when we eat foods that disrupt our gut, like junk food, processed foods, breads, gluten is a big one. And so our the integrity of our gut lining starts to get leaky, and there's these gaps that shouldn't be there. And so as things are passing through our bloodstream, proteins leak into our bloodstream. And then our body says, oh, well, that looks a little bit like my thyroid. And then it starts the autoimmune process where you start breaking down your thyroid. Or that looks a lot like my joints or my liver. So instead of, your body thinks it's doing a good thing by breaking down this protein, but it looks a lot like another piece of your body, and then that's the joint or the system that starts getting attacked. That's when those autoantibodies get created and a diagnosis is made of, you know, rheumatoid arthritis or Hashimoto's or whatever it is. And those also, those things, those proteins that are damaging to our gut lining and those foods that we eat that destroy our health of our gut, those also create inflammation. So that's kind of the piece of that piece of the puzzle. And then the third thing is there's usually a triggering event of some sort, and that could be an emotional trauma, something like an infection, exposure to mold, viruses that are reactivated. Epstein-Barr virus is kind of one that comes to mind for me that I deal with quite a bit. So things like that. It's not that uncommon to see someone experience the start of an autoimmune condition following exposure to something toxic or a very traumatic event, a life-changing emotional event. So the question is, it's not how do we address each separate autoimmune condition. The real question is, how do we stop our body from breaking down itself? If we know that we have this going on, whether it's labeled rheumatoid arthritis or lichen planus or scleroderma or Hashimoto's, all those things, it doesn't matter. The one of the best things we can do is look at what is causing autoimmunity in our bodies to break down and getting on top of that. And so here are the things that really help with that. The first is to eat to support your health. And this is just good advice no matter what you have going on. Ditch the processed junky food, right? Duh. Eat whole, unprocessed food in its natural state. So we're talking about things like lots of vegetables, some fruits, organic if you can do it, meat that is grass-fed, pastured, organic, eggs that are pastured, things like that. And just avoid the other junk. Drink enough water. Ideally, this would be filtered with a reverse osmosis filter or something similar to take out the impurities. But just make sure that you're drinking about half of it. If you take your body weight in pounds, divide it in half, drink that many ounces. So, you know, for most of us, it's somewhere around 75 ounces a day. So dig deep to look at the sources of triggers. So is there a food trigger? A food sensitivity test can tell you this, and so can an elimination diet. Are there foods that you're eating that are triggering this leaky gut environment? Look at virus exposure, mold exposure, parasitic infections, things like that. Again, there's functional testing that can reveal these things to you so you know what you're dealing with. Take a deep dive into your digestive health. So eating right is the bedrock of good, you know, nutrient consumption, and I think as much as you can, you should get what you need from your food. But sometimes, you know, there's more to the story than that. And so we're looking at, are we absorbing what we're eating? How's our stomach acid? A lot of people have insufficiency in that area. Microbiome or colon balance, the good bacteria, the bad bacteria. Do we have an out of growth experience here one way or the other? And are you eliminating every day? Because if you're not pooping every day, there's a lot that can go wrong with that. So we need to be doing that. And then you know, I touched on this before, but nutrient deficiencies. Again, eat a good diet that provides as much nutrition as you can get, but I find that so many times that's not enough, that we're lacking nutrients. And the best way to do that is with a micronutrient test, where you're looking at a whole red blood cell sample and looking at what is missing. Things like vitamin D, magnesium, the B vitamins, those things are absolutely critical to these things that happen that keep our bodies healthy. And if you're dealing with an autoimmune condition where your body is in this state of breakdown and you're trying to identify the trigger so you can stop the breakdown, and then rebuild so that you achieve health again, restore what's been broken down, you need the right building blocks. And so you can guess, or you can get the right information so you see what you are lacking specifically. It's very specific to your needs. So anyway, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are dealing with autoimmune conditions that are watching this or know someone who is. So if there's anything that myself or my team can do to help, just reach out to us and we'll guide you through that process and see if you're a good fit to do the work that we've done with so many other people that have been able to find help and hope and healing in that space. Okay, well, thanks for watching. Have a great day.